to early years childcare. However, I still should be able to do functional skills to help me to reach a level in terms of a grade for my maths and my English, grade GCSE from an A to a C.
Okay, and something in relation to childcare, because we see that it's a predominantly female profession, if you like, and I'd quite like to get your perspective on this, John, because you're obviously a father, you're the primary carer for your children. What are your thoughts on the fact that there are not enough men, perhaps, in working in childcare industry?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually, because while researching for this interview, I stumbled across a report from the Daycare Trust, which they published in 2007, which found that only 2% of people working in childcare are actually male, and that's an issue that goes from nurseries and preschools right up into primary schools. And one of the things that keeps men away or doesn't appeal to men is low pay and the low status of the work. And there is a theory that actually by professionalising the profession, by making people more qualified, it will actually appeal to men, and you'll get more men into the actual workforce. And another point that the Daycare Trust found was that 77% of parents questioned actually wanted more men in childcare, and there was particular demand amongst lone parent women who wanted positive role models for their positive male role models, I should say, for their children. So personally, I think it's a great thing. I'd be all for it, and I think it would be a wonderful thing if there were more men working in childcare, because 2%, it is pitiful.
It is, and especially also that we're looking in terms of the flexible working and, getting more men involved in, that aspect. It would be good to see it from the other side as well, childcare, right from that early stage, to see more men working in the profession. Yeah. Do you find that as well, Laura?
I do, and I think in terms of what John was saying, I find on my travels on a national level, there is a low percentage of males who actually work directly with children. However, the London Early Years Foundation, they've just set up a network group called Men in Childcare for the London region, and I was at the launch in November, and their chief exec, Juno Sullivan, is actually pushing that in great deal for men to raise awareness. And I do believe, I can't remember the actual stats, but the government has produced something that by the year, I believe, 2015 or 2016, they want X amount of men to be working within childcare, hence why June has set up this group within Leave for the men who work within childcare. And also, too, they commissioned a research paper looking at the children's views on men who care for them, and it was quite an interesting document. I will share that with you, John. I'll email you the document.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Of interest.
Just want to quickly go to our shout box now, and we've got a comment here that backs up what you were both saying, actually, from SSFC, who says that there's no way that the costs will come down. This is in relation to childcare costs. And also they're mentioning the recent closure of the nursery in South Croydon for safeguarding reasons, and that this bill does nothing to promote safeguarding. Care to comment on that at all?
Yeah, I saw that in the local press about the nursery that was closed down because of, or rather Ofsted suspended their registration because of safeguarding issues. Obviously, there's no details as of yet as the actual reason but why, but it was linked to safeguarding. Also, too, there was a nursery recently in the Woodside, Addiscombe area that received an inadequate judgment. And we're finding more and more of this now since the Early Years Foundation stage, which is the Early Years curriculum, came in September. Because they've moved the bar Ofsted in terms of quality, a lot of nurseries, especially within Croydon, have come down in their outcome grade. So if they were good, for instance, they went down to satisfactory to inadequate. And I think what that actual comment there from the caller, that's absolutely right. I think we'll be seeing a lot more of these in terms of registration suspending, more inadequate grades, if these proposals actually come in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. One of the reasons why, in terms of the increase of ratios was a good thing, some of the research that I've done states that it will increase the level of female employment. If that's the case, is that not a good thing? Is that not one of the positive things that's coming out of this bill?
Everybody's looking at me. I struggle to see how this is going to increase female employment. I mean, it seems to that question seems to assume that the cost of childcare will come down and make it more affordable, and therefore allow a woman post her spell of maternity leave, which of course will soon turn into shared parental leave, I should add very quickly, to allow her to return to work. And of course, I think we have a unanimous verdict in this studio that the costs are not going to come down. I would also put myself on thin ice and say that is it actually the argument that we should be having or discussing, and say that actually what we should be looking at is quality childcare. I think increasing the women's access to the workplace, yes, I'm all for it, I should say very quickly, but that's not what this debate is about. It's about the quality of childcare for children and their future.
Okay. And I think, to echo, absolutely agree with everything that John says there. And to expand on that point, it's two separate issues, is the quality that we have in our childcare in our early years world, and also in terms of women getting back into employment, which are two separate issues. So I think the government needs to be quite clear about what their intentions are with regards to the more greater childcare document.
Okay, all right. Moving on to the Children and Families Bill now, and the government have published the Children and Families Bill. It includes reforms to allow parents from 2015 to share up to a year's annual leave after the birth of a child, and also it extends the right to request flexible working to all employees from 2014. And I wanted to get your perspective in terms of whether you think this will really help, particularly the perceptions of parenting in society. And actually, John, it would be quite good to get your perspective, because you're obviously the primary carer for your daughters, and it would be quite interesting to find out from you in terms of how this will be perceived, because obviously now men will have more input.
Mm-hmm. I think that the Children and Families Bill has potential to have huge impact. It has, whether families can actually afford to take the full, shared parental leave remains to be seen. But assuming that it can be afforded and so on, it really will give men the potential to get involved with childcare in that all-important first year. And as a progressive step, just to give you some idea, I just discovered earlier this week that in the Republic of Ireland, men over there don't even get paid paternity leave. So compared to some of our European neighbours, this legislation will actually put us well ahead of what they're doing. But there is one crucial point that I think has been very underreported, and I think it's an important one to make, is actually benefit for women, because you hear the age-old argument of never employing a woman who's of fertile age, whereas all of a sudden what the government's proposing, the father could potentially take 50 weeks parental leave. He'll have the legal right to do that. So it blows that old argument out of the water, and it's it's a vital point, and it's one I've really not seen many people pick up on, and it's one that I really would like to get across.
Thank you, John. And what are your thoughts on this, Laura?
Yeah, I agree with everything John just commented on there, because I think it's right. It shouldn't absolutely, as a working mother myself, it shouldn't always be down to the female taking maternity leave. And what this bill does, it brings into the equation, well, actually, the father can have the maternity leave as opposed to the mother or the paternity leave. But then I think equally too that on the other hand, hearing stories from small businesses, that the impact that it will have on their business. Say, for instance, if you're only employing three individuals, one of them goes off on mat leave or paternity leave, and that the impact on that. But then I do agree that it should be a shared issue with